Okay. Let me start by thanking the Almighty God for making this event very possible today. Of course, everyone knows that the petrol industry bill suffered a lot of hiccups in the National Assembly previously. But when we came in 2019, both chambers identified the passage of the PIB as one very strong and fundamental and critical and strategic bill that we must pass within the life cycle of this National Assembly, the 9th National Assembly. And by the grace of God, we redefined the way to go about it, because we would have learned from the mistakes of the past on the issue. And what we emphasized, and that worked for us to achieve what we did, was to ensure that we worked very, very closely with the executive arm of government right from the conception of the bill itself. So our committees, the oil and gas-related committees, started working with agencies of government that handle the oil and gas industry. And we had the interactions continuously up to the point that the bill was finally presented to the National Assembly. The members of the National Assembly had taken the passage of this bill to be one legacy that this 9th National Assembly should leave by the time we complete our tenure. And we want to make it very clear that everybody in the National Assembly, in both the Senate and the House, from all parts of Nigeria, worked for the bill to be passed. The debates were, of course, very lively and sometimes even very difficult ones, but that was to show the emotive attachment that everybody had for the bill to be passed. And we have passed the bill by the grace of God. I want to congratulate everybody in the National Assembly, from the leadership and particularly the membership of the National Assembly, who had really cooperated to ensure that we pass this bill, which is now an act. And I want to congratulate Mr. President too, and the team that worked with us. But you know who should be even congratulated more? Nigerians. Because Nigerians in different spheres have participated one way or the other. Some came for the public hearing, others debating all through before the passage, and even up to date, people are debating. But the fact remains that this is one bill that will benefit Nigeria as a country and benefits its people. Benefit Nigerians as a country, Nigerians and Nigeria as a country, in such a way that, like the President said in his address just now, this is going to give certainty, create the legal framework that people, especially investors, had feared that was absent or not adequate, and that certainty will make it possible to have foreign direct investment, particularly coming into the oil industry. And we listened to the President when he said in the last 10 years, we lost about $50 billion worth of investments because nobody was sure of what our environment, the legal environment particularly, was. But now there is that certainty. Secondly, we'll have much more revenues coming into our country, into our coffers. So our states will have more revenues, our local governments will have more funds, and of course what we expect is that these revenues will be translated into actionable projects that will make life better for Nigerians. The host communities are winners as well. It may not be necessarily exactly what some of them had hoped, but you know, from zero to over $500 million, I think it's a big jump. And with time, such issues could be further addressed. But I want to also caution that it's not the $500 million that is small, but how we are able to prudently and transparently deploy these $500 million in the host communities. This time around, there should be no excuses for anybody to tamper with this money. The host communities have suffered enough. Even when NDDC was established, I'm sure it was established because of the host communities' issues. And yet, the host communities did not get much attention. This time, this one, the host communities have been specifically mentioned, and these funds will go there. We want to see people who will be appointed taking this as a trust and do what is right. Of course, there will be so much employment and jobs, especially in the midstream of the value chain. This midstream has not been in existence, so to speak. What we have is the upstream and then the downstream. When our refineries, refineries will be better and more will be established, I'm sure the value chain will have opportunities for more Nigerians to have jobs and so on and so forth. I believe that this is one very historic, important moment for us as a National Assembly, this 9th National Assembly, and of course, a very historic moment for this administration led by President Muhammadu Buhari. This is something that previous administrations tried, and as hard as they tried, could not do it. This is one bill that saw the faces of so many people between the executive and the legislatures in the past, and yet could not be passed. The 9th National Assembly, by the grace of God, had done the magic, and the president has signed it, and today we have a Petroleum Industry Act. Glory be to God. This is one act now that would have to be implemented, and the president had mentioned that he had already set up an implementation committee. It's when you start the implementation that you will start to see where you need to rejig or bring some amendments. But I will advise that for now, let us not be emphasizing on the problems, because this is like building a new house. You need to go into the house, occupy it, and maybe when the rainy season comes, you might notice somewhere leaking, or maybe plumbing job needing attention. So this is something that we all have to address with some optimism and hope that it will be okay. But because we are human beings, no act of any human being will be perfect. So where we are able to see issues, the National Assembly is there, bring them for amendments. Even the most difficult issues can still be brought back to the National Assembly for amendments if it is worthwhile to do so. But I believe that there is no need for us to be emphasizing on the problems rather than the prospects. That the executive and the legislature, when they work together, the country benefits better. And that was what we promised Nigerians, that we are going to work in harmony, that we are going to partner, that we are going to cooperate, but not at the expense of the autonomy or the independence of the legislature. We have done what others couldn't do simply because that understanding, that partnership, that cordiality, that mutual respect and trust have been there for us to engage continuously and, of course, produce and come up with what is today being celebrated.